All right, let's talk boxing stateside. PBC had a fight card headlined by Gervonta Davis, who KO'd Frank Martin in the 8th round battle of the unbeatens. Is Gervonta Davis, Gareth, the face of boxing? And if not, who is?
He's a big star in America. He plays the bad boy act brilliantly. He's grown.
I don't think he plays it. I think it's him.
No, but what I mean is, I remember Gervonta I knew him when he never said anything, and it was very hard to get a word out of him.
Yes,
when he came here and he fought one of the Walsh brothers, Liam, back, I want to say six years ago. I want
to go a bit further. Me and Gareth, by the way, have gone silent because we're both checking this. I think it was a bit further than 6.
2018, I reckon it was.
Maybe you might be right. Let's have a look. Liam Walsh KO'd 2017, May 2017.
Okay, 20. But it does feel like a very long time ago. He was 20 then. And I remember sitting down with him at the Savoy for an interview downstairs at the Savoy, down the steps in the bottom entrance by the embankment. And obviously Floyd Mayweather was with him and is in a kind of sequined, not sequined, but in a very brassy jeans jacket and looking very elegant that day. And to be fair, he spoke more about Gervonta than Gervonta did about himself. And we were trying to get the story of The Wire out of him, because obviously he's from that area in Baltimore. And some of his friends and his relatives were in that series, that extraordinary series that's quite old now, but still incredible about the drug dealing and the community and all of that. And I think I've really noticed in the last year and a half that he's grown up. He's grown into himself more. Like you say, he's not acting, but his presence and demeanour, I thought, in the build-up to that fight, demeaned Frank Martin in such a way that you could almost see the lack of confidence Martin had going into that fight. If that's unfair on Frank, I don't know, but he could not. He struggled. Gervonta owned him, I thought, in the build-up. I thought he really owned him, if I could say that, Did you see all that?
I think you're spot on. I've never seen someone so intimidated.
Exactly.
Someone almost, demeaned him. Demean's the perfect word for it. It almost reminds me of Mike Tyson's opponents in the 80s, because that's who Gervonta reminds me of a bit, Mike Tyson. Just because you tune in now, like you did with Mike, to see him knock out people. And there'll be a lot of casual boxing fans that don't appreciate the Estradas of the world and the Chocolatitos and the Bam Rodriguez's, even the Lomas. They just want to see people get knocked out. And Gervonta brings that. And he almost scares his opponents. And he did that to Frank. He did it to him. He scared him. And you almost knew a knockout was coming. You just expected it because that's what he does. But yeah, look, I think he's extraordinary. And to your point about we're starting to see him. And I almost feel like that relationship with Floyd breaking away, I think it's the best thing that could have happened to him, because it was almost like the Floyd Mayweather show. Even though Floyd always spoke about Gervonta, he almost felt like Floyd's going to get him in the mic and he's going to talk and talk and talk and it's going to be about him. Whereas now it's Gervonta talking about himself. And no one talks about you better than you.
I think Floyd helped to bring him through.
Yeah.
I think Leonard Ellaby being around him is very important, because there's the kind of the continuum, if you like.
The senior man in the room. Yeah.
I think it's a very good point about Mike Tyson and that kind of aggressive effervescence that came off him the whole time. It feels Gervonta in the build-up. He's got harnessed. He's a millimetre away from having a brawl with you, and you really believe he's about to have a brawl with you. But if he can harness that and not do that all the way, there's people that are going to strike out at him in the build-up to fights coming up, in these super fights, because they're not going to take it from him, and it's going to be extraordinary. Like when he dug at Martin's side and just touched him, you could almost feel Martin flinch, thinking, God, was he going to go for me there or not? Martin couldn't deal with, like you say, that cloud of dominance that was just seeping over him like a fog. It was like a fog, wasn't it? And you could see that it wasn't even adrenaline in him. It was like, oh my God, I've got to fight this guy.
Yeah.
I've got to fight this guy. And was that about to happen right then? And it's like you say, he's using all he is. He is being himself. He's being where he's come from. He's come from terrible places, children's homes, a really hard upbringing. He looks handsome now. He's grown into himself. He's got this style. He turns up with this entourage in these giant jeeps. It's fantastic. It's real theatre as well. And I suppose what we need to talk about is, and again, brilliant performance. He's like a jack in the box when he moves. And I just think, is there anyone that beats him around 140? Is there anyone
No, there's a guy at 135. There's a couple of guys that we need to see those fights. Shakur Stevenson, who you love. And Shakur, by the way, is not going to accept what Gervonta did to Frank. Like, he's not going to be bullied.
That'll kick off
immediately.
Yeah, that will kick off.
Yeah, he's from Newark. He's from a tough area as well, and he's not going to accept that. And I almost want to see someone stand up to the bully, both in and out of the ring. And that's why I'm desperate to see the Shakur fight or the Loma fight, who I still think's got something left. Loma's not going to accept it either. He's not going to accept it. This guy's from Ukraine. He's not. He's from Ukraine. He's not going to accept that nonsense. So for me, we have to get those two fights next. Like, we can't allow Gervonta to be fighting, and no disrespect to Frank, a B-level fighter when there are two A-level fighters in the same weight class. So we have to see. I want Loma next because I don't want him to get Loma when Loma's 50. And I think this is the only gap for Loma, really. And then I want Shakur Stevenson super fight next year, Cinco de Mayo, take on Canelo and whatever he's doing and go for it. Because Gervonta versus Shakur is enormous.
It's a really, really big fight. You asked if he's the face of boxing.
Yes.
I think he's the face of American boxing right now. I don't think he's crossed over into the mainstream. If you ask British sports fans who are watching the Euros at the moment, the European Championships at the moment, the football fans, do you know who Tank Davies is? 2 out of 10 maybe might know.
One.
So that he needs that moment.
So that means by that then, that means the face of boxing is Tyson Fury. Because I feel like that's the one where I think if you show American NBA, and I think they'll know who Tyson Fury is. I think everyone
Fury
around the world.
I think Usyk has crossed over.
You think people will know who Usyk is in America?
Yeah, I think so. Or they'll know him as that Ukrainian.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. But by the way, I think Shakur might fight Loma first, by the way, because they're both under the top rank banner. And I know that's been talked about. I wouldn't mind. This is a bit of a fantasy fight.
Go.
I don't actually know if Loma is too big for him, even though he's naturally a featherweight. Loma and Inouye, I wouldn't mind seeing, by the way.
Fantasy.
I know.
Fantasy.
I know. But I've told you about my thoughts about Inouye and Nick Ball, haven't I?
You have. Have you phoned Turkey? Have you made that phone call? Have you told him? Does he know?
Listen, as I said to you before, if I'm thinking about it, they'll be thinking about it. So yes, Shakur Stevenson and Tank Davis has always been a super fighter 135. I'd like to see them fight again. I'd like them to have a trilogy, really, because I think they may need, or at least two. I'm getting into fantasy realms here. I think they may need two. Right now, I'd see Tank as the favourite, purely because Shakur's power isn't to the fore when he fights. It's, again, having said that, he does showboat a tiny bit, but he's so skilled. So skilled as a fighter.
If the presser would be the press conference. This is what these young kids do in America. They make everything entertaining. That the press conference isn't a formality. It's part of the show. And the press conference would be incredible. Crawford will be there to support Shakur Stevenson. Keyshawn Davis would be there.
Ryan,
let it happen.
Ryan Garcia.
Ryan will be there on the Gervonta
as he was at the
number
weekend.
one fan T-shirt he had on. So it would be incredible. Look, let's hope.
Brawling in the crowd.
Yeah, everyone would be there. Honestly, everyone would be there. It'd be one that's full of entertainers and actors and superstars around the ring. It would be that super fight that we desperately crave in America.